Open up my YouTube behind me, and then I can make sure we're live here. Need to switch over to my other channel real quick.
Why do you have so many subscribers on your Fire channel, but like there's no gamer vlog channel?
Because I don't do nothing. Story time, the Great Chicago Fire. There it is. It's on. Alright.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
We are ready to go. Alright. Get ready. Story time. The Great Chicago Fire. Ready to go?
Yep. Ready to be.
Okay. The book series I survived, called The Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Here we go. Chapter 1, Sunday, October 8th, 1871, 11:30 p.m. in Chicago. Need to bring my water closer because I'm going to need it. I guarantee that. Sitting here reading a lot makes my throat dry.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Whoosh! That was powerful.
Okay. The fire started inside a barn. It was tiny at first, a glowing dot, some wisps of white smoke. But then flames reached up. They grabbed hold of a pile of hay. Crackle, pop, and then, boom! Towers of flame shot up higher, higher, punching through the roof, reaching for the sky. Voices screamed out, "Fire! Fire! Fire!" I wish it was daytime, because then I'd just scream that. Alarm bells clanged. Firefighters readied their horses and raced their pumpers through the streets.
Horses?
But it was too late. Yeah, dude, this is fucking 1871. What do you expect?
Cars?
No, there was no such thing as cars in 1871, dude. Okay.
Tell them to go invent them. Don't go cheap.
Yeah, really. But it was too late. The flames blasted a shower of fiery sparks into the windy sky. Like a swarm of flaming wasps, they flew through the air, starting fires wherever they landed. Shops, homes erupted in flames. Warehouses exploded. Mansions burned. Crowds of panicked people fled their houses and rushed through the streets and along the wooden sidewalks. They screamed and pushed and knocked one another down, desperate to get away from the choking smoke and broiling flames. But there was no escape. The winds blew harder. Flames shot hundreds of feet in the air, spreading across miles and miles, and in the middle of it all was an 11-year-old Oscar Starling. I'm guessing Oscar is going to be our main character. Alright.
You think there, you special snowflake.
Oh, I know. Okay, Oscar had never felt so terrified. Not even 2 years ago when a killer blizzard hit his family's Minnesota farm. He was trapped inside a burning house, fighting for his life. He'd made it down the stairs, desperate to escape, and then, crash! A ball of fire and cinders crashed through the window, and the house exploded in flames. And suddenly, Oscar was in the fire's ferocious grip. The flames clotted him, scared him, threw him to the ground. Smoke gushed up his nose and into his mouth, but the worst was the blistering heat. The worst was the blistering heat, the feeling of being roasted alive.
Roasted alive.
I thought I just heard somebody come in my fucking door.
Yep, I did.
I don't know.
I did.
Okay. The worst was the blistering heat, the feeling of being roasted alive. Was this the end? Oscar had never wanted to come to this city, and now he was sure he was going to die here. Shit.
Poor Oscar.
Chapter 2, 3 hours
Tell him to
earlier,
go kill
a
himself.
train to Chicago. Don't puke. That's what Oscar had been telling himself for the past 9 hours as the train chugged and swayed and jerked its way towards Chicago. Jerked. They'd crossed 400 miles of wide open prairie. For hours, Oscar had been staring out the window. There had been nothing to see but shoulders-high grass and a few scrawny buffalo that seemed to wave goodbye to Oscar with their swishing tails. Now that they were getting closer to the city, Oscar couldn't bear to look. Slouched down in his seat and glued his eyes to his dusty boots. "Are you feeling all right, Oscar?" Mr. Morrow said. "I'm fine, sir," Oscar lied. "Such a long trip," Mama said, her freckled face shining with excitement. "I feel like we're heading up to the moon." Mama and Mr. Morrow both laughed, but nothing seemed funny to Oscar. So much had happened these past few weeks.
Fuck.
He was in the state of shock. Oh, great, I'm fucking yawning already. And it's only midnight. Mama had married Mr. Morrow. They sold the Minnesota farm where Oscar had lived his entire life, and now they were moving into a strange city that might as well be the moon. No wonder Oscar felt sick. Of course the real nightmare had happened 2 years ago, when Papa died. Why does somebody always die in these fucking books? Like, what the fuck?
Storyline.
Ridiculous. He was killed in a vicious blizzard, a wall of ice and snow, wind that slammed into the prairie town with no warning. Papa had been trying to get home. His wagon crashed into a tree in the blinding snow. Even now, Oscar couldn't believe that Papa was gone. Papa was the toughest man Oscar knew. He'd been a sheriff in in the Dakota Territory. He'd survive a gunfight with one of the most brutal outlaws in the West. He'd carve a farm out of 40 acres of wild prairie. Papa was Oscar's hero. Those first weeks after Papa died, Oscar was sure his sadness would rip him apart. God damn it. I keep yawning. But he couldn't just lie in bed sobbing. With Papa gone, it was Oscar's job to help Mama with the farm. He made a whispered promise to Papa to watch over the farm, to work as hard as he could to keep it going. He worked before dawn and after school. He worked so hard he'd fall into bed every night too exhausted to think. Wish I could do that. Fuck, I love going to bed really tired. Then I actually sleep and not just lay there for 2 hours trying to sleep. Mama wanted Oscar to see his friends. Maybe tomorrow, Oscar always answered. Then come sit with me a while, Mama would say. Let's play cards. He and Mama and Papa used to play fierce games of hearts. When Papa lost, he pretended to fly into a rage, pounding the table while Mama and Oscar doubled over laughing. But Oscar had no time for cards. All he wanted was to do work. The seasons passed in a blur of sweat and dirt and aching muscles, and Oscar would have just kept on going. But then 6 months ago, Mr. Charlie Morrow appeared at the door. Mr. Morrow was an artist from a big Chicago newspaper. He'd come to the castle for his latest project, which was point scenes of life in a booming little prairie town. Mama was honored when Mr. Morrow stopped by and asked if he could paint their farm. Jesus fucking Christ, I can't talk. Each morning for a month, Mr. Morrow would show up just after the sun rose, waving at Mama and Oscar with his paint-stained fingers. "Hello," he'd sing out. Wait, I have to sing it out. "Hello."
The fuck? Go kill yourself. Jeez.
You know,
Christ.
I'm working on it, okay? Just give me...
Yeah, you better.
Just give me a...
Been waiting a long time for this.
Alright.
All
Hello,
right.
he'd sing out.
Hello. He'd sing out.
Fuck off. He was a big man with a jet black hair and a beard to match. Mama said he reminded her of a giant from a fairy tale, but the nice kind, she explained. Oscar liked Mr. Morrow well enough. There's like a bubble in my stomach. I can feel it.
The fuck?
It's just weird.
In your stomach.
Oh god. Alright, here we go. Oscar liked Mr. Morrow well enough. He made Mama smile, that was for sure.
Oh, well, that was for sure.
God damn it, keep yawning.
Stop yawning. I swear to God, I'll kill you. In your sleep right now.
Most nights after Mr. Morrow packed up his paints, he'd join them for supper. Afterward, he and Mama would sit out on the porch and look over the day paintings. "Oscar, join us," Mr. Morrow would boom. But why did Oscar need to look at paintings of his farm? He lived there. So he'd make excuses and then fall asleep to the sound of Mr. Morrow and Mr. Mama's soft laughter drifting upstairs. Ha ha ha. After Mr. Morrow went back to Chicago, Mama seemed to get a letter from him every single day. So maybe Oscar shouldn't have been shocked when 2 months ago Mama sat Oscar down under the apple tree with some big news. He asked me to marry him, she said. At first Oscar laughed. Mr. Morrow? He was nothing like Papa. He was an artist. An artist! Was that even a job? But then Oscar noticed how Mama's eyes were twinkling. Oscar, she said, I want to say yes. Oscar stopped laughing. He's a wonderful man, she said, and what a life we'll have with him in Chicago. At first Oscar just sat there like he'd been smacked in the head with a shovel. Me
Oh my
too.
god.
That must be really hard.
Die.
I don't know how old he is though. I think he's 11. Like I think all these kids are 11 in this series. Leave the farm? Move to Chicago? What about his promise to Papa? Oscar begged Mama. He pleaded with her. He tried to make her understand that they needed to stay in Castle. Papa wouldn't want us to leave here, he exclaimed. But then Mama looked at Oscar with her hopeful eyes. Oscar, she said quietly, putting her hand up to Oscar's cheek. Fucking damn it.
What?
Yawning. Her fingers were
Oh.
like Oscar's, covered with calluses and scars from all the scrubbing and weeding and washing that filled her days. All Papa ever wanted was for us to be happy, and Oscar could see that she had made up her mind. Fuck me. Oscar could have run away or refused to get on the train, but he didn't have the guts. So now here he was, miserable, chugging along with his stomach turned inside out. The train whistle shrieked. Woo, woo, Chicago! The conductor shouted out. 10 minutes! Oscar's stomach flipped. Don't puke. His stomach didn't listen. He managed to slam up the window just in time to splatter his lunch across the tracks. Welcome to Chicago. Oh, that'd be a nice welcome to fucking Chicago.
Got him. Got him good.
Alright. Let's continue. Chapter 3. Oscar's...
Wait, you already got to chapter 2?
Yeah, that was just chapter 2 I read. Chapter 1 was like a basic, like, insight of the book. And then chapter 2 starts it.
I see, says the blind man as he holds up his hammer.
Oscar stared out the window in shock as the train pulled into the city. Chicago was called the Queen of the West, but what an ugly queen. Wait, I'm gonna listen to the replay.
That was great. That was great.
Chicago was called the Queen of the West, but what an ugly queen. What an ugly queen.
I heard that.
Oh my god, like, I'm so glad that I got that. See, this is why it's gonna be funny. Like, I'll have to, like, cut these out or some shit. And just, like, upload it somewhere. Like, nobody's watching now. But I mean, this is stuff we can actually put on, like, I'll put it on YouTube. And then I'll, put the captions on when we're in school.
It's good.
Okay. Chicago was called the ugly queen of the West. But what an ugly queen.
The ugly queen of the He said, Chicago is called the ugly queen of the West. The one ugly queen. Ugly.
Okay.
What is with you?
All along the tracks were factories and warehouses. The sky was smudged dirty brown from coal fires and dark clouds burping out of smokestacks. Soon enough they were off the train and standing in the enormous station hall. Every other person smiled and waved at Mr. Morrow. Charlie, a man boomed. Welcome back, Mr. Morrow, said a porter lugging a heavy suitcase. Mr. Morrow, I love your latest pictures, a pretty woman gushed. Good to be back, Mr. Morrow beamed. People swarmed around the station, more people than Oscar had seen in all his life. Everyone was rushing around as if they were late for church. Who the fuck is the church? And suddenly, Oscar noticed the rotten stench that filled the air. He had never smelled anything as disgusting. It sounded like someone had just tossed 100 skunks into a hot outhouse and left them there for a month. What?
That's a nice description.
Okay.
Okay.
Oscar could see it from Mama's crinkled up nose that she noticed it too. The slaughterhouses, Mr. Morrow said. reading their sickened expressions. They butcher more hogs in Chicago than anywhere in the world. What? Mr. Morrow went to the baggage room
The slaughterhouse.
and returned with their 3 suitcases. Oscar's was the smallest. Inside was all that was left from his life on the farm, his few clothes and his prized possession, Papa's sheriff badge, and a 5-pointed silver star. Is there somewhere I could freshen up? Mama asked, smoothing one of the golden curls that had popped out of her bun. I'll show you, Mr. Morrow said. Taking Mama's arm, Oscar, can you keep an eye on the bags? Oscar nodded, but as they disappeared into the crowd, Oscar's heart thumped. He felt so out of place here and strangely all alone. A bunch of rough-looking boys lurked around. Oh boy, he's gonna get raped. One of them stared at Oscar. He had bright red hair and strange yellow-tinged eyes that reminded Oscar of rattlesnakes. Oscar was relieved when they finally drifted away. He took a deep breath and looked around, thinking about Papa's one visit to Chicago. Papa was just 20 years old at the time. His parents had both died, and Papa decided to leave his hometown near Boston and head west. I was looking for my fortune, Papa always said. He landed in a no-name town in Dakota Territory. The town was desperate for a sheriff, and Papa needed a job. For months the place was quiet until the night a gang of outlaws rode in. Oh shit. Their leader was Earless Max Kildare. What?
Kildare?
I bet he was killed there. Get it? I bet he was killed there.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm making a stupid ass joke. Actually, Earless did have one ear. Oh wait, no, earless. That's what it is. Earless, not earless.
Oh my god.
Earless did have one ear. Papa explained to Oscar. He lost the left one blowing up in a safe during a bank robbery. What the fuck? Why don't you just get somebody to open the fucking safe instead of blowing the fucker up? Like, Jesus. Alright. Papa heard that Earless Kildare was a... Kildare sounds so familiar. Like, I feel like we've
Kildare?
heard... Yeah.
Kilgrace.
Yeah. Papa heard that Earless
Do you watch
Kildare
Jessica
was
Jones?
a killer. Who?
Jessica Jones.
No.
Netflix.
Nope.
Marvel.
Nope.
That's just stick.
And sure enough, by morning, the town's bank had been robbed, and one of Papa's friends was sprawled out dead in the street. Earless and his gang were long gone. Papa went out to the gangster.
Gay? Is that what you
No.
said? Earless gay?
Yeah, and his gay. No, and his gang. G-A-N-G, gang.
It sounds like you're saying he was earless and gay and just stranded on the street.
Yeah, yes, the Earless was gay and spread out in the street. Oh my god, you're such an awful person.
Oh, it's great. No.
Oh my god. Thank God tomorrow's Thursday. I need Friday. Actually, no, I fucking don't, because I have to get up early Saturday. Fuck me.
Ha, me too.
What time?
Not as early as you are now.
Exactly.
Still 8.
I have to go fucking sit probably for like 5-6 hours in a fucking room and in a fucking lecture on Saturday.
That sounds fun.
No, it's not.
I get to learn about
Yeah.
math.
Yeah, so Saturday I probably won't be able to do anything.
Would you rather do math problems and write essays, or be in that conference?
In the class? I'd rather be in the class.
You would?
I'd rather be, yeah.
You'd have to do math problems and write essays.
That's fine. I'd rather be in the class.
What the hell? I'd
Because
rather just be sitting there. Do
yeah.
you actually have to do anything, or just sit there and
I don't know. Probably. One Sunday we'll definitely have to do stuff. Alright.
do you do anything? Dick.
Okay. Earless and his gang were long gone.
Earless
Papa went
and
after the
gay.
gangster, chasing him all the way to Chicago. He finally found him in a stinking tavern near the river. Fucking damn it. Papa pulled out his gun, ready to arrest him. But Earless was too quick. He jumped behind the bar and started shooting. Pow! A bullet whizzed just past Papa's head. Pow! Papa fired back, but missed. Fuckhead. Earless lunged forward with a final shot. Pow! The bullet hit Papa in the chest. It torn a hole right through Papa's heart, but it ricocheted off his badge instead, leaving a big dent dab in the center. Oh wait, a big dent smack dab in the center, not a big dent
hit him
dab
in the chest.
Yeah, apparently it bounced off his fucking badge. I highly doubt a badge would be able to stop a fucking speeding bullet.
Yeah.
Earless escaped in the commotion. After that, Papa decided he was done chasing outlaws. He heard about free farmland up for grabs in Minnesota. He'd never farmed, but figured he'd give it a try. He ended up in a little town called Castle, where the first person he had met was a freckled-faced school teacher with the prettiest blue eyes Papa had ever seen. It was Mama. Within the month, they were married. Jesus Christ, you fucking met somebody and a month later you're married? Well, this is like the 1800s or so.
Yeah.
By the next year, they had their farm in Oscar. So I found my fortune. Nobody names their child fucking Oscar in the 1800s.
Really?
No, like, I'm serious. Like, I really don't think anybody named their child Oscar in the 1800s.
Why not?
Like, if they did, it was like really, really rare.
But
right.
How do you know this?
I don't know. Like, look at names from the 1800s. They're
Right,
not like, yeah. Oscar is more of a like common name today.
I don't think it's a common name today.
You know what I mean?
What about Oscar Oswald? Yeah, I was thinking
No
Oswald.
fucking idea who that is.
Oswald Cobblepot?
I don't know.
Penguin?
I don't know.
Batman?
Nope.
That's his real name. Oswald Cobblepot.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Have you never watched Gotham on like TV?
Who?
Gotham.
No.
God, you're such a fuckstick. You know that?
Well, what the fuck do you want?
I want you to die.
I know
That's
that,
what I want.
but I'm just saying.
What are you just saying? It
Nothing.
sucks that no one cares what you're just saying.
I don't know. Let me go. Alright. Okay. Alright, well, let's continue anyway. Okay.
Why did you pause?
Because we started
Talk about
Oscar.
Oswald.
Yeah, Oscar. Alright. So I found my fortune, Papa liked to say, kissing Mama on the cheek. As for Earless, he was still on the loose. Papa heard he was in
That's
Chicago, lying low but still up to no good. Oscar's thoughts of Papa were cut short by a whispering voice. "Can you help me?" He looked down at a skiddy little girl with a yellow cap over two raggedy braids. She stared up at him with big brown eyes. "I've lost my parents." She looked so helpless. "We'll find them," Oscar said, standing a little taller. "I think they went this way," she said, leading him by the arm out of the main waiting room.
uh-oh.
But then suddenly she let go of his sleeve. "Sorry," she said, and then poof, she disappeared into the crowd. An uneasy feeling grabbed a hold of Oscar. Something wasn't right. He spread around and rushed back to the suitcases. They were gone. Fucking people in goddamn cities stealing shit. Chapter 4. 30
Even a
minutes.
little girl?
Yeah. 30 minutes later, 9 p.m., Illinois Central Train Depot. "Those street kids are vicious," the policeman said. He looked down at Oscar. "Son, you're lucky you didn't get stabbed." "Oh, fuck." "Mama," Mr.
What,
Morrow.
Oscar?
Yeah, police,
What the fuck?
police officer said that to Oscar.
It was a little girl.
No, it wasn't her. She left him.
Yeah. So?
I don't know. He looked down at Oscar. "Son, you're
What do
lucky
you
you didn't
mean?
get stabbed." "What?"
Why? Is he gonna get stabbed by a little girl?
"No.
What? Then who's he gonna get stabbed by?
Like, just anybody. Like, 'cause he's there by himself, is, like, what he's saying.
By himself. So he's just gonna...
He's by himself because his mom and his, like, stepdad went to go somewhere or something and told him to wait there
Well,
with the
I don't know what
bags.
they're doing.
They're fucking going to Pound Town. That's where they're going.
Yeah, yep, they definitely are.
Okay. Mama, Mr. Morrow, and Oscar stood with the policeman on the spot where their suitcases had been. The cop, Officer Brennan, was an old buddy of Mr. Morrow's. He explained that Oscar had been tricked. That little girl wasn't really lost. She was a crook. Wow.
Thing.
This is fucking Chicago. Gee, I'm never moving to Chicago. Fucking assholes there. I just heard that
Yeah,
through your mic.
you got the train?
Yeah, I heard it through your mic. Like, I was hearing that. I heard it through my headset. I'm like, what the fuck? Alright.
Oh wow, that was a nice capture. There's these little cats holding down a monster.
She was a crook,
Meowster.
part of a band of thieves. She distracted you so the others could steal the suitcases, Officer Brennan said. Happens here every day. Officer Brennan and 3 other cops had already
Happens every day,
scoured
then
the
put up a
station.
damn sign.
I know. But there was no sign of the girl or the bags or those rough boys. What, seriously? It was like 5 seconds ago. How do you have no fucking sign of them? Oh my god, these people are stupid. Oscar told the policeman about them too, including the red-headed boy with the strange eyes. Otis Weber, the cop said, his friendly eyes narrowing. "He's only 14 years old." "Oh, fuck. 14 and a criminal. But he's got the heart of a killer." "Oh, shit. We hear he works for an older guy." "Oh, God." "They
Oh,
take
I
helpless
see.
orphans and turn them into ruthless criminals." Oscar shuddered. "Will you find our suitcases?" Mama said. "Doubtful, ma'am," he said, giving them an apologetic smile before he left. Really? What
Yep.
fucking assholes.
It's like, hey, can you find like money, like everything?
Can you find
Like,
the
no.
gun that somebody just shot my brother with? Huh? No. Give him an apologetic smile and walk away. Go fuck yourself. Alright. Mr. Morrow put his arm around Oscar's shoulders. I should have warned you," he said. "In a big city like this, there are some bad characters." "No
Oh, why did
shit."
you leave him there?
Yeah, really, you fucking asshole.
Fuck stick.
What an asshole. "What's done is done," Mama said, shaking the worry from her face. "We can all get new clothes. What matters
But
is that
they
we are
just
together."
lost everything.
I know.
Shaking the
Like,
word from
everything they
face.
had. Mr. Morrow beamed at Mama. Oscar ducked out from under Mr. Morrow's arm. Oscar didn't care about his clothes. All he cared about was Papa's badge. See, that's exactly like the clothes don't matter. It's like they're personal belongings and stuff like that. Alright. All he cared about was Papa's badge, which was gone forever. It was past 10 p.m. when they finally got out of the station and into a cab. A beat-up buggy pulled up by a dusty horse. The cab driver flashed a smile with his black teeth. What? When he saw Mr. Morrow. Okay. Charlie, he cried. Welcome back. Uh, was there anyone in Chicago who didn't know Mr. Morrow? Hello, Joseph, Mr. Morrow said, patting the man on the shoulder. Take us to Palmer House, please. Joseph let out a sharp whistle. Fancy. We'll have supper there, Mr. Morrow told Mama and Oscar. Then we'll head home. Oscar, I think you're gonna like the house. My father built it. It's a little far away from things, north of our new park. The best room is my studio. You can look out the windows and see all of Chicago. Oscar managed a nod and bit his tongue. That was weirdly worded. Oh, fuck me, god damn it.
Okay.
God damn it. Mr. Morrow's house would never be home. Home was Papa's farm, where the air didn't smell like dead hogs, where the only thieves were rabbits that stole carrots from the garden. The horse clattered away from the train tracks, and warehouses onto a wide avenue of grand buildings. Oscar tried not to act like he was impressed, but the buildings were taller than any tree he'd ever climbed. Amazing, isn't it? Mr. Morrow said, smiling proudly. When I was born, this city was just a little town on a marsh. Today, Chicago is one of the most important cities in the world. It's beautiful, Mama said, but suddenly Mama's expression darkened. Does the sky look odd to you? She asked, her brow wrinkling with worry. Oscar saw it too, a pale orange glow in the sky. Ah, fuck, here we go. Must be a fire, Joseph said matter-of-factly. We're having fires practically every night now. Hasn't rained here in months. The city is bone dry. Ha. The word fire sent a flash of fear across Mama's face, and it jolted Oscar too. 3 years ago, a massive forest fire had erupted in the woods north of Castle. It burned thousands of acres of pine and birch trees, and then raced across.
Birch.
I don't know why there isn't pine trees in Minecraft. Like, I just thought of that.
Yeah. Hey, did you know if you right click on a tree log, that turns into strip?
What?
Yeah. You can now strip oak in the new snapshot.
Oh, shit. So that's 13.1?
Yeah, yeah. They're like doing bug
113.1?
fixes and the oceans. So now you have like a trident. You can have like a trident, and then you can throw it, and then it returns back to you, and then you can. It's like a weapon, and if you throw it at like any monster, you actually teleport by them.
That's weird.
It's really cool. And they have turtles too, which you can make a stuff that they drop. You can make a helmet out of,
Turtle soup.
and then you'll have unlimited water breathing.
Alright.
Turtle soup. I wish. I wish that was the thing. You just take out a bowl and put the turtle.
Dozens of buildings were burned, including Oscar's barn. The entire town could have been lost, but just as flames were lapping at the edges of Main Street, a big rainstorm blew and doused the fire. Fuck yourself. Edges of Main Street, a big rainstorm blew in and doused the fire. Don't worry, Mr. Morrow said, giving Mama a reassuring pat. Chicago has one of the best fire departments in the country. No, it doesn't. We have close to 200 firemen. 200? Portage has like 75.
Jesus.
And they're volunteer. These guys are paid. Like, motherfucker. Alright, let's continue.
Well, I mean,
That's bad.
so large city, small fire company. They'll be fine.
Yeah. We have close to 200 firemen and a fleet of the best new steam pumpers. That fire will be out before we finish supper. No, it fucking isn't. The cab lurched to a stop, and Joseph turned around, and here we are, folks. Palmer House Hotel. finest in the city. Yeah, let's just completely forget about the fact of a burning building.
That's because the city. That's why it's the finest. Because it's the only thing semi-good. You don't have to take much to be finest. That shit
Yeah.
down. Shit's
They climbed out of the cab, and a man in a top hat swung open the hotel's huge front door. Oscar peered inside at the glittering lobby. Bright lights twinkled and piano music filled the air. Oscar lingered outside. He'd never seen such a fancy place, and then he was sure he didn't belong in there. Oscar glanced back at the street, tempted to bolt away to the train station, and that's when he saw her. A little girl scurrying down the sidewalk. Even in the flickering gaslight, there was no mistaking that dirty yellow cap, those ragged braids. "There she is!" Oscar called out. But Mama and Mr. Morrow were already starting across the lobby, and Oscar's shouts were drowned out by music. And at the hum of the chattering crowd, the girl moved quickly across the sidewalk. And before he even realized what he was doing, Oscar dashed in the street, and he had to catch the little thief. Oh, he had to catch that little thief. Chapter 5, 10:15 p.m., heading toward the south side. Oscar dodged a speeding horse wagon and leaped over a steaming pile of manure. Oh, fucking great. He hopped up into the wooden sidewalk and wove his way through the crowd, his eyes glued to the yellow cap bobbing in front of him. The girl didn't look like much of a criminal with her stick legs.
Stick.
Fuck me.
Stick.
Like I like a stop for a second. I was like stick legs. With her stick legs and flapping braids. But wasn't that innocent part of her act? Pop always said that Earless was a charmer. He'll dazzle you with a smile and then shoot you dead. Pop would say this. Plus Papa explained Earless threatened the guys in his gang like brothers. He made sure they ate and drank like kings. Oscar figured the girl was heading for the gang's hideout. His best bet was to secretly follow her there. Oscar stayed hidden as he followed her through the busy streets. They crossed behind a tavern and cut through a snaking alley. What the fuck is a snaking alley?
Like
I'm
alley
guessing
that
it like
goes
I'm
that
guessing it like curves.
curves.
I've never heard of a
Yeah.
curving alley. Like seriously.
Like what would the houses look like?
I don't know. Fucked up, I guess. They finally came onto a dark street of small houses and stacks. Sorry. The girl... I was yawning. No, I was yawning. I was yawning. The girl beelined for a sagging little house set back from the street. Oscar ducked behind a barrel and waited as she used a key to open the front door. "Bruno," she called out as she went inside. "I'm back." Bruno must be one of the thugs, Oscar thought. He saw a piece of jagged wood lying on the ground. He grabbed it. It would make a decent weapon just in case. What I'm thinking... He's gonna fucking stab her in the throat with it.
I hope so.
Like, what I think is gonna happen... I think that she actually, like, took the stuff because, like, it was kind of like a survival situation kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, she was out
I
looking
think she's doing it for
resources, like, to better herself off. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm gonna find out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to make...
Well, like, what do you steal stuff for?
I don't
For
know.
the fun of it? Like, I don't know.
But I feel like she's gonna, like, explain herself to Oscar.
And Oscar's gonna stab her.
Yeah, stab her in the throat. Freaking
And then
piece
write
of
a
wood.
book about her. Stabbing her in the throat.
Yeah, stab her in the throat with a fucking piece of wood. Alright. He crept up to the house, crouching low so none of the criminals would spot him out of the window. He wondered what he should do. Barge in? Demand his suitcases? Suddenly his knees started to shake. Sweat oozed down his neck. Nasty. I was waiting for it to say down his ass crack. I
Why?
would have been like, what? Sweat oozed down his neck. What was he
He was down
doing?
his ass
He
crack.
needed to get out of here. But then he thought of Papa facing the gun barrel of earless Max Kildare.
Oh, he's gonna
No,
kill it.
Oscar thought. He wasn't going to run scared from a bunch of street thugs. He's going to get Papa's badge back. He curled his fingers around his weapon as he rose up, ready for a fight. Oscar peered through the window. He spotted the little thief, and his mouth dropped open in shock. No, he thought, it can't be. I'd imagined her sitting there with Otis Weber and the other boys, rummaging through piles of loot. He'd gotten it all wrong. He'd gotten it wrong. There were no thugs and no sign of his suitcase. The girl sat in a little wooden chair on her lap. Was not a pile of stolen money and jewels, but a smiling boy with a mop of dark curls. Oscar guessed he was maybe 3 years old. Their voices floated through the open window. Sorry, I had to leave you alone again, she said. I very brave, Jenny, the boy said, puffing out his chest. His little croaking voice made Oscar think of a baby frogs he used to catch behind his house. Next time I help. No, the girl said. It's no fun what I do, and you need to stay here and guard our house. The boy puffed out his chest proudly. I guard. And guess what? I have enough money to get us some nice fresh milk tomorrow and a cookie. The boy asked hopefully. We'll see, she said, taking off her yellow cap and suddenly looked older than Oscar had first thought. Maybe 9 or 10. The boy reached up and tenderly smoothed one of the girl's crooked braids. I love cookies, Jenny, the boy whispered. I know you do, Bruni. What the fuck? The boy is 3 and she's like 10. Like, I'm confused here. She smiled, but it was a weary kind of smile, tinged with sadness. It reminded Oscar of Mama's smile, and as she looked in months before Mr. Morrow showed up. Oscar swallowed hard as he
I
stepped
love
away from the window.
cookies.
Those kids were on their own. Oscar felt it in his bones. I figured that's how it was gonna be. Like, she was on her own and trying to get by, and she had to do something for the kid.
She doesn't technically need it.
Okay. He remembered
Hey,
what
we
the
can
policeman
buy
said. Otis
cookies.
Weber,
You don't need
go
cookies.
fuck yourself. He's 3.
Yeah, man doesn't know cookies are.
Otis Weber preyed on the most helpless orphans. Oscar dropped his stupid weapon and headed slowly toward the road.
Stupid.
What a dope he was,
What else?
pretending he was like chasing a killer outlaw through Chicago. He was chasing a thief into an unknown house, not a killer through Chicago. Instead, he'd found 2 sad little kids, and now all he could think of was Mama. How could he have left her like that? He must be
Mama.
going crazy with worry. His mind was so jumbled up that he barely noticed when something landed on top of his head. It felt like a leaf or a big moth. He absent-mindedly brushed it away and was startled when a shower of sparks filled down in front of his face. A few hit his skin, burning his flesh like red-hot needles. Oscar looked up and saw
Jesus.
a sight so strange he was sure his eyes were playing tricks. It looked like as if glowing red snowflakes were falling from the sky. They danced in the gusting wind, hundreds of hot, burning embers of different sizes and shapes. Before he knew what was happening, they were all around him, attacking like a swarm of fiery bees. They seared his scalp, burning through the wool of his clothes, and scorched his lips. Pain lashed him, and was the sickening smell of his burning hair made him gag. And suddenly, whoosh! Flames leaped up in front of Oscar's face. The sparks had ignited his clothes. Oscar was on fire. Shit. See, motherfucker, don't be wandering away. Okay, we're gonna start chapter 6 here in a minute, but I have to run out to my kitchen real quick.
You have.
Alright, we're back. I got a little brownie for my kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What is this now? It's 12 o'clock brownies.
12, not that kind of brownies, like the little brownies you get at the store.
I know it's a
Mm-hmm.
pop brownies. Where did you get those from, Bobby?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby sold pop brownies.
Wouldn't surprise me either. Once I finish this brownie, we'll continue.
Once I finish this, I'm gonna shit on you tomorrow about that.
Brownies?
Yep. And just did brownie fetish.
You'll see me tomorrow morning. So I'm going to finish this book tonight and I'm going to come take a test.
Wait, how many chapters are there? You're gonna finish this book?
Like 14.
Jesus.
And we're on chapter 6 now. Like we're going to start it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Quick read.
Very interesting books, too. They're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that I can actually, like, I know the actual storyline of this one instead of just guessing the other one. I'm trying to cut off this guy's tail. It's not working, though.
Because the other book I caught you in halfway.
Yeah.
So I started it.
Well,
and
not
I
even
didn't finish it.
the last 3 chapters.
Yeah. But you still got the end part of the story.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
I got 11. I got 11 out of 14 right on that one.
I always get like a 13 out of 14.
A what?
I always get 13 out of 14 on my test.
That's the first one I took. I got a 13 out of 14. And I got 11 out of 14.
Just decreasing as you go along.
Yeah. As long as I don't, as long as I get at least a 10, then I'm fine.
Yeah. So wait, how many points will you need after this?
So far this week, I've gotten 8 points, and this one's worth 5. So that'll be 14, I think. 13. So that'll be 13 points this week. What's 200 minus 13?
200 minus 13?
Yeah.
187. Don't make me do math again.
Okay.
It's too late.
Alright. We ready for chapter 6?
Yeah. What?
You excited
What was
for
that
chapter
noise?
6? Sorry, my cup was touching my mic as I was trying to drink.
What was he gonna do with the little...
What?
Like, is he gonna get shit back?
I don't know, we're gonna find out. Okay.
Better.
Alright, here we go. Oscar threw... Okay, I'm breathing on my mic. Oscar threw himself to the ground and rolled in the dirt, frantically beating the flames that were crawling up his arms and reaching out to grab his face. He rolled and pounded until finally the burning stopped. He lay there coughing and spitting out the ashes that coated his tongue. Each one of these books has, like, people breathing in smoke and coughing and shit. Like, all 3 of the books that I've read.
Yeah.
I think the next one tomorrow I'm gonna get is I Survived the Titanic.
Ooh. I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. It was either that one or this one, and I picked this one first. Alright.
That seems interesting. Story night tonight. Or tomorrow night.
Yep.
Or wait, tonight, I mean. Or I guess you could say.
Friday night, no story night.
Why?
Because I'll need to go to bed
wake up early. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be going to bed early. Alright. Oh, where were we?
Yes.
You see? His
Huh?
heart hammered with fear, but he couldn't just lie there. The sparks were still everywhere. He had to find somewhere to hide. Gritting his teeth in pain, he managed to crawl back to an old chicken coop behind the kid's house. The wood was mostly rotted away, but the roof was just wide enough to protect Oscar. He sat hugging his knees to his chest, swatting away the sparks that came too close. He breathed deep, trying to slow his hammering heart. He touched his forehead gently, rubbing his fingertips over the blistered skin. His scalp was badly singed and there were burns up and down his body. But he barely felt the throbbing pain. His attention was focused on the sky. That glow Mama had noticed earlier was brighter now. Well, no fucking shit. And I don't know how he didn't notice it when he was running towards the damn house.
It's just one stupid kid.
Uh-huh. Looked as though a giant hand had painted the sky bright orange. The fire had gotten bigger, much bigger. That's where the sparks and embers were coming from. No shit. I thought they were coming from fucking space. Like, oh, that's where they're coming from. The fucking fire. No shit. Jesus Christ.
Oh, poor
I
kid.
wonder what the genders of the embers are.
The genders.
I wonder what the embers
Give
are
it a
identifying
break.
as.
I identify as a cowboy. Pasta. Yep.
That's where the sparks and embers were coming from. The powerful wind was scattering them like burning dandelion seeds. The same thing had happened the night of the forest fire near Castle. Sparks and hunks of burning wood and bark had flown for miles, setting off new fires wherever they landed. Mama and Papa and Oscar had almost lost their barn. Some people lost everything, barns, houses, even fields. 10 people were killed. One family survived by diving into their pond and dunking under water while the flames roared over them. Oscar took a deep breath, trying to loosen the choking fear that gripped his throat. He thought of what Mr. Marno had said, that Chicago had one of the best fire departments in America. Wrong. Wrong.
Wrong.
Maybe that was true, but there was no sign of them here. Well, rip.
Oh,
And once a fire got too big, not even an army of firefighters could put it out. Oscar had learned for himself during the castle fire how a fire could grow and grow. It could become like a ferocious beast that would devour everything in its path. And what a fire was most hungry for was wood, like the thousands of shacks and stores that lined Chicago's streets. The miles of wooden sidewalks, the warehouses filled with coal and oil that would explode at the slightest spark. Oscar remembered how the forest looked after the fire. He and Papa had ridden up there to see it for themselves. Oscar would never forget the sight of it. The fire had turned thousands of trees into twisted black stubs. The ground was a sea of ash. There was not a bird, not an insect to be seen. Oscar tried not to look at the blackened bones that were scattered all around, the skeletons of the creatures that hadn't been able to escape. He and Papa both loved that forest. They'd go up there with Mama, who'd loved telling them the names of every last tree. Oscar and Papa had both fought back tears as they stood in the burning ruins. But then Papa had pointed to something on the ground, a tiny green shoot pushing up through the ash. It will take a long time, Papa had said, but one day the forest will grow back. Oscar shivered as he thought of what a huge fire like that could do to a city like Chicago. Could such an important city burn to the ground? Fuck yeah, I can. Jesus. It didn't seem possible. But hadn't Oscar learned that anything was possible? If a blizzard could kill his papa, couldn't a fire destroy an entire city? Oscar looked up as he thought, as though answers might be printed on the orange sky. But instead his eyes found two small, terrified faces peering down at him from the upstairs window of the house. Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
what?
He was spotted.
Why? So
by the girl and the little boy in the house.
No, but like, why is that? Wasn't he spotted before? Whenever he came in?
No, he didn't come in. He just looked in the
Oh.
window,
Oh.
and he could hear them.
I thought he came in.
No.
Oh.
Jenny and Bruno were looking at him. The sight of them lit up by the glowing sky jolted him. Right at that second the wind blew its dragon breath, more sparks and embers appeared, and out of nowhere a large plank of flaming wood came soaring through the air, like an enormous flaming spear, hurled by an invisible warrior. It was heading right for the house. Boom! The wood smashed through the roof of the house, sending a column of flames high into the air. Oscar opened his mouth, but he was horrified to even scream. Shit. Chapter
Well,
7.
really?
Yep. Page 37, too.
Let's see what this.
Yep.
This is. Oh, they're having a little war. No, wait, never mind.
Oscar sprinted toward the house, swatting away the burning flakes that swarmed around him. He watched with terror as fire quickly danced across the roof. Where were the kids? They hadn't, what the fuck? Why hadn't they come bursting through the door? Come on, he whispered as he could grab a hold of them with his words. Why is he whispering? Fucking yell. But still, they did not appear. Oscar rushed up the crumbling steps and pounded on the front door. Hey, he shouted, come out. Nothing, he tried the door, but it was locked tight. Where were they? Shouts rang from the street. Fire, fire, fire. Oscar whirled around. 2 other houses were burning like torches. The wind gusted and flames leaped across the street. Boom! The house caught fire as if it were made of dried straw. How'd it make a boom sound then, though? What? A house catch on fire doesn't make a boom sound unless something explodes.
Might have.
I don't know. But what
You
exploded?
don't
It
know.
didn't say anything that exploded. Alright.
You
The
didn't make the
horse...
story.
Well, the house caught fire as if it were made of dried straw. Any minute this whole street would be a sea of fire. Oscar had to get away. He had to get back to Mama. But how could he leave here if those kids were still in the house? Of course he couldn't. Oscar slammed his shoulder to the door. Bam! 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 On the third try, the door frame splintered and the door burst open. Oscar stumbled in, falling to his knees. Smoke whirled all around him, rose to his feet, gasping for breath. Hello, he screamed. Where are you? And that's when he heard them just above. Just above the fire's roar, muffled cries coming from upstairs, or it was just the wind of the fire holding his ears. Oh, shit. Was it possible the kids had escaped through another door? Oscar stumbled to the narrow staircase, peering up into a churning cloud of black smoke. Don't be an idiot, he told himself. Don't go upstairs, those stairs. Hello, Oscar called, praying that nobody would answer, that the kids were long gone. But no, help us, please, shouted a terrified voice to the girls. There was no choice on shaking legs. Oscar started up the stairs. He pulled his shirt up over his mouth and nose.
He pulled his shit up over his mouth.
Yep, pulled his shit up over his mouth and nose. Pulled his shirt up over his mouth and nose. He did nothing to block up the smoke. Each breath burned his throat and lungs, but the worst was the blistering heat. With each step, it grew hotter. Oscar could practically feel his blood boiling and his skin sizzling, his flesh cooking on his bones. He couldn't
That
even...
smells great.
He wouldn't last long up there, and neither would Jenny and Bruno. At the top of the stairs was a closed door. Someone pounded on the other side. Here, Jenny shouted. The door is stuck. Please help us. Oscar pushed against the door, but it wouldn't budge. Stand back, he choked. Oscar kicked the door as hard as he could. The door crashed open, releasing a wave of heat and even thicker smoke that pushed Oscar back on his heels.
He's just a little kid.
I know, how the fuck? Thank God, I don't know, construction wasn't amazing back then, so... He teetered, almost fell down the stairs, but somehow he managed to regain his balance. Jenny came rushing out with Bruno in her arms. They were both coughing and wheezing. Their faces were black with soot and streaked with tears. Jenny was clutching Bruno with all her might, but her skinny arms were losing their grip. Oscar reached for Bruno, and to his surprise, the kid didn't resist. Oscar pulled Bruno into his arms, holding him close to his chest. The poor boy's heart was pounding even harder than Oscar's. Jenny stood unmoving, dazed and coughing. Oscar was afraid she might faint. Oscar grabbed her arm and pointed her down the stairs, gripping her shoulder. In case she slipped, he followed right on her heels. Run straight to the front door, Oscar said to her. Get as quickly as you can. Jenny did she was told, gaining strength as they reached the bottom. Oscar put Bruno down at the bottom of the stairs, and Jenny grabbed the little boy's hand. Together they flew out the front door. Oscar was just steps behind him, and then crash! The window shattered. Kaboom! A giant ball of fire and cinders blasted into the room. Oscar fell to the floor, and then there was nothing but flames. Shit. Chapter 8. Boy. Take a drink.
Poor Oscar and the little boy.
Again, Oscar felt as though he were being attacked by a wild animal, a monster with burning tentacles and boiling breath.
Monster?
Yeah, Monster Hunter with boiling tentacles and boiling breath.
I'm playing that right now.
It grabbed him, clawed at him, and spun him around. Smoke gushed into his nose and down his throat, filling his lungs with searing poison. He couldn't open his eyes, but he knew the fire was all around him. He dropped to the ground, crawling blindly, groping for the door.
Groping for the door?
Yeah, Groping. Groping, groping, I don't know.
Groping, yeah, he's groping.
Yeah, groping for the door. But he had no idea where he was. It was like being trapped in a flaming maze. His lungs were ready to explode. Was this the end? Was he really going to die right here? And then he heard a voice. This way. Mama? Turn right.
Mom.
The voice shouted, tugging him, guiding him. Oscar turned. No, it wasn't Mama's voice. It was Jenny's. Yes, now straight. Hurry. And then he felt a hand on his arm, pulling him up. Seconds later, he was out the door. He was just steps from the house when there was a terrifying whoosh and explosion of hot air. They rushed forward, and Jenny grabbed Bruno from where he had been hiding behind the barrel. They ran across the street and fell to the ground. Oscar's head throbbed. His entire body felt as if it had been roasted. He lay back and closed his eyes. For a long minute, he stayed there, trying to catch his breath. He might have stayed like that for hours, but only a minute or so passed before he felt someone breathing in his face. He opened his eyes and saw a huge curly head lowering over him with wide open eyes. Bruno, hey, you're not dead. The little boy, hey, you're not dead. He croaked out happily. Hush, Bruno, Jenny whispered. That is not a polite thing to say.
Neither stealing luggage.
Yeah.
Hey, not dead.
But out of this entire live stream, nobody's fucking joined.
I asked.
I don't know. Alright. But he
because no one likes you.
Bruno said, but he not dead. Bruno insisted, putting his face even closer to Oscar's so his slimy little nose touched Oscar's nose. Then he put his gooey mouth to Oscar's ear and whispered, you not dead. What the fuck was that? Oh my god, you squealed so loud. What the fuck was that?
You not dead.
Listen, shh, listen.
Wow.
Like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that?
Great.
Like
you just whispered, he's not dead. And I was like,
yeah, whenever he said he whispered, I wanted to whisper it.
I know, but that's so funny. He just said, he's not dead.
He's not dead. It's really funny. Alright, let's continue.
You're just gonna see me by your locker today, and I'm just gonna He not dead.
The kid wasn't going to quit. Oscar put his hand on Bruno's head. I know, he said. Jenny kneeled down and gently peeled Bruno away from Oscar. Let's give him a little room, Jenny said. Oscar managed to sit up. He started ahead of the little house, which was being torn apart by the flames. The wood moaned and sighed as it collapsed into the fire. Fuck off. Like, I don't know what flames moan, but... or what wood moans, but...
Oh, Slim Thing. Yeah.
Bruno... Wait. Fuck, where were we? The wood moaned and sighed as it collapsed into the fire as if crying out in pain. It was sickening, like watching a rabbit get torn apart by a coyote. Bruno wriggled closer to Oscar until his small shoulder pressed against Oscar's arm. My house, he said, pointing sadly. Oscar didn't know what to say, so he put his arm around the boy. The fire burned so bright that it lit up their faces. It was the first time Jenny had the chance to get a good look at Oscar. Now Oscar waited to see the shock in her eyes when she realized who he was. But there was no flash of recognition. She looked exactly how Oscar felt. Scared, dazed, and amazed to be alive. Their eyes locked together, and Oscar could tell that Jenny didn't recognize the kid she'd tricked at the station. She saw a different boy, the boy who'd helped her and Bruno escape from the fire. And as Oscar looked at Jenny, he didn't see a helpless orphan or ruthless thief. He saw a brave girl who watched over her brother all by herself, whose voice had led Oscar out of the blazing house in the nick of time. And then there was Bruno, who grinned at Oscar as they thought, as though they'd been best friends all their lives. I, Bruno, he said, looking up at Oscar and puffing out his chest. I'm Oscar, Oscar said. Oscar, Bruno said. I'm Jenny, Jenny said. They all sat there a minute looking at each other. Had he and Jenny really only just laid eyes on each other tonight? Oscar eased his arm from around Bruno and struggled to his feet, brushing the dust and ashes off his burned clothes.
I'm guessing it's a love story. I'm gonna go with that.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Oscar eased his arm from around Bruno and struggled to his feet, brushing the dust and ashes off his burned clothes. His body ached, but his mind felt surprisingly clear. He knew exactly what to do.
It sounded like you said his mind felt surprisingly queer.
Clear. C-L-E-A-R. Clear. Not queer. Yeah, his mind felt surprisingly queer. He's gonna fuck Bruno. Fucking
2-year-olds?
He's 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's gonna do
And I think Bruno's like 11.
Jesus Christ.
Pound the night.
Oh my
Alright,
God.
we need to get to the Palmer Hotel, he said. He said the word we very clearly. My mother is there, Oscar said. The hotel is fireproof. We'll be safe there. Oscar picked up Bruno and held his free hand to Jenny. She took it and gripped it tight, and together they began their journey through Chicago's burning streets. It's gonna be fucking pound the night. Serious.
Pound.
Yeah, it's gonna be pound the night.
Dude,
Alright.
they're a little kid.
Chapter 9.
Possibly.
We're about halfway through.
Would
maybe.
you watch?
No. Chapter 9. Monday, October 9th, 12:15 a.m.
I think
South
you would
side
watch.
of Chicago, heading north.
I have a feeling that you'd
No.
watch.
No. I do not watch kitty porn. What the fuck was that? Alright, let's
I don't
continue.
know.
They left
Yeah, he's
Jenny
sick.
and Bruno's burning neighborhood behind and headed north. Oscar kept looking over his shoulder at the giant orange globe leading to the sky. The main fire was huge now. Oscar could see it, and it was spreading fast, and the wind was carrying sparks all over the city. Everywhere Oscar looked, he saw new fires burning. Some fires were very small. A ribbon of flame was waving from a tree a pile of garbage glowing like a campfire, but there were burning houses everywhere, and in places the smoke was so thick that they had to gasp for breath. But Oscar's gasps also came from what was
You shut up.
happening all around them. People sobbing and screaming, horses driven crazy by the heat and sparks, stray dogs howling in fear, even the rats were running for their lives. If you see fucking rats running down the road, you got problems. Rushing out from under the wooden sidewalks and getting squashed under the wheels of the wagons and buggies that plowed through the streets. The crowds got bigger as they moved north. Many people were dragging trunks and suitcases.
Trumps.
Trunks.
Trumps.
Yeah, trumps and suitcases, or struggling with heavy sacks heavier over their shoulders, heaved over their shoulders. Two women in nightgowns carried a mattress above their heads. On top was a very old man curled up under a quilt. What? So these two bitches are carrying a mattress with this dude fucking sleeping on top. Like, what the fuck?
Basically.
Okay.
I feel like it.
Yeah, I guess. Alright, the fires turned the night as bright as day, lighting up the terrified faces all around Oscar. The tear-stained cheeks, the mouths open in horror, the wide open eyes look up at the sky. But the worst part of the howling wind, which seemed to be getting stronger by the minute.
Ow.
Each hot gust was filled with dust and go fuck yourself. Each hot gust was filled with dust and smoke and spit out millions of embers. Millions of embers and sparks. One burned a hole clear through the toe of Oscar's boot. Jesus Christ. Oscar passed a woman just as her skirts erupted into flames. That's kind of funny. Just walking down the road, you just see this bitch's fucking skirt blow up. Luckily, the man next to her had a canteen of water and quickly drenched her. I'd be like, bitch, fucking stop, drop, and roll. I need this water. Like, seriously. And quickly drenched her. The
Let it
sparks were
burn.
terrified for Oscar and Jenny, but they tortured poor Bruno. Hot, hot, he kept saying, trying to bury his face in Oscar's neck. Finally, Jenny spotted an overturned wheelbarrow with a heap of clothes spilling out. She snatched a lady's hat, its purple velvet smudged with dirt, the wide brim crushed. I don't think anyone will miss this, she said. She put it on Bruno's head for perfect helmet to protect his curls. She kept her eyes on Oscar, swatting away embers that came too close to his face or smoldering on his clothes. Oscar was getting an idea that there wasn't much Jenny couldn't take care of. They came to a corner where a crowd of people had stopped to watch a grand brick building burn. What the fuck? Why are they stopping? Get fucking moving.